All right, Chris Picks here today with Gerrick Wilkins, who is a congressional candidate challenging Gary Palmer for the 6th Congressional District. It's great to sit down with me today. How are you, Gerrick?
Man, I'm doing great. Just ready for Christmas and ready to get this new year going.
Hey, man, me too. First of all, I've got to tell you, man, you have a great smile. I love that picture of you on there. That's a great picture of you. So anyway, tell me, man, what made you decide to jump into this race?
Well, I'll tell you, Chris. Like a lot of people out there, I've just been fed up with career politicians and the status quo in Washington. And what I think really pushed me over the edge was back in March when Gary came out and said, "I know I promised I'd only run 5 terms, but I'm just doing too much good, and I'm going to stay in there." And I think if someone says they're going to do something, they need to do it. And that just really bothered me. And then when I started looking at his record, I realized that he really was not the staunch word conservative that we elected. And I think the swamp has just changed him. And instead of being a good Alabama conservative, he's turned into a swamp preacher.
And it looks to me like his record is not impressive. And then I seen he bragged about voting for a bill that he actually voted against. Are you familiar with that one? It was some kind of infrastructure bill or something.
Well, I know he was taking credit for the terrible Biden infrastructure deal
That
that he
was it.
voted against. Yeah, and I'll tell you, I don't want to take credit for anything that Joe Biden's done because all he's doing is driving up the debt. But it's crazy for us to do that, and that's what we commonly see with these politicians when they get entrenched in office. They just become part of the problem. It's kind of like I've said before. When someone drives your truck into a ditch to get it out, you got to change directions, you got to change trajectories, and usually you need to change of drivers.
Good, good analogy. Now, why is he put in the policy, helping shape Republican policy? Is he just one of their boys?
Yeah, that's one of the arguments that we hear commonly is, oh, well, he's in charge of the policy committee, but the policy committee in the House really doesn't do a lot. I mean, they're not responsible for getting legislation to the floor like the Rules Committee or the Appropriations Committee. I mean, where he's at, he's not really influencing a whole lot. He's just there and become part of the establishment and not getting a lot done for Alabama.
Um, so I looked over your website because I wanted to be prepared for this, and the first thing I seen was border security, and I was thinking, okay, this is going to be another Republican soundbite over there. And then I started reading it, and I was like, okay, this guy's got a little bit different take on what a lot of people think. It's not just building a border. He wants to take money away from us funding Ukraine, which is one of the most ridiculous things I've seen. And then I got to commend you on, because I've been saying this right here. Why don't we call out the National Guard and put them on the border to help solve this problem?
Yeah, I actually have a concrete 6-point plan to address our border because I mean it literally is the most pressing issue in our country right now. And we've got to start taking massive action. Obviously, I want to finish what Trump started with the wall, but I'm going to tell you that's not enough. I mean, we've got to go ahead and authorize the states to activate the National Guard. But we need to take that a step farther. We need to get the military involved and send them down to Mexico to eradicate the cartels. I mean, it is a plague on our country. We have fentanyl flowing through the southern border. We've got terrorists coming through here, and it's all being perpetrated by the cartels who are trying to destroy us. And we need to go ahead and instead of defending Ukraine's border and fighting these wars all over the world, we need to protect ourselves right here at home. And here's something even crazier about my border security plan. I actually even have a component that pays for it, because that's the biggest problem we have in Washington. They want to keep spending billions of dollars of our taxpayer money that we don't have, and we need to pay for this stuff. We have a $34 trillion debt. And in my plan, I go ahead and impose increased fees on Visa, on background checks. And here's a new one. We need to start charging on these foreign wire transfers. People are coming over here, taking our US dollars and shipping them all over the world. And we need to start charging them for that so that we can secure our borders.
Preach, man. I got one question for you though. So I was reading about Biden has this catch and release deal. Do you think it would put too much of a burden on the police if we started arresting every illegal immigrant?
Well, I don't think they need to even be here. And that's why we've got to end this catch
I
and
agree with you.
release. And we've got to go back to the stay in Mexico policy. I mean, granted, I'm all for helping people where we can. My wife and I are very active in missions work. We've seen the impacts that true refugees have. But I'll tell you, you look at what's coming across the border, and these are men from China, from Iran. Those are not the refugees that need help. We should see women and children are the people we should be helping, but that's not what's coming across our border right now. These are men who are invading our country. So we need to restore the stay in Mexico policy. We absolutely have to end the catch and release policy. And then we need to reassign our funding from, instead of 86,000 IRS agents, let's hire 86,000 ICE agents, and let's actually secure our country and get back to a nation that is protected. As Reagan said, a nation without borders is not a nation at all.
Man, that I bet you're getting a great reception on the campaign trail with that. Alabama. So you had to think about a bill with the Alabama Infrastructure and Business Council. Or I read that right?
Yeah, it's my Alabama First Infrastructure and Business Development Plan. Because listen, I am tired of us continuing to send hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine when we got bridges and roads that are failing right here at home. I can tell you the amount of times I've been up and down 65 and I get stuck in traffic because we've been prioritizing Ukraine's purse and not America first. That's got to stop. We need to invest right here at home. We need to invest in building business at home, having the infrastructure we need to grow. And that's where we has to be. It's got to be Alabama first, not Ukraine's purse.
Why are so many politicians focused on stuff like that? Because I was talking to a representative yesterday, and like his main concern, the thing he's worried about most coming up in this upcoming session, is we have so many hospitals that are about to close in rural areas because the Medicaid thing, that they can't fund it. I mean, why are we wasting money on these other countries when we got people here on the streets dying?
It's unfortunately it's special interest. So that's what it comes down to. These rural hospitals don't have the lobbyist in Washington. They've got to have a representative that's going to stand up for the people. These special interests right now are dictating what type of policies we want, just like we saw in this terrible National Defense Authorization Act that is benefiting defense contractors in Ukraine and special interest, and not even prioritizing our soldiers. When they're going and bragging about giving our soldiers a 5% pay raise, when the original bill had a 30% pay raise, but instead we want to send that money to the Halliburtons and the Black Rocks. I mean, that's unacceptable. We need to take care of our soldiers. We need to take care of the people at home, and we need to do what's right for our country first.
The constitutional term congressional limits, how many terms do you think would be fair for a congressman and a senator to serve?
So I've signed the term limits pledge, which calls for 3 terms for the United States House of Representatives and 2 terms for the U.S. Senate. And I've taken that a step farther. I actually have a book coming out on shackling democracy, embracing term limits, empowering citizens. And in that book, I don't only advocate for 3 terms in the House. I'm committed to only doing 3 terms. You see, Chris, I've been very blessed to be very successful in the business world the last few years. And this for me is a calling, not a career. I can go back and sell dealerships and make 10 times the amount of money I can make in Congress. But I think we've got to have business leaders to save our country. So that's why we need them there for a period of time on mission. 3 terms is what I've committed to. It's the promise I've made to the voters. It's the promise I've made to my wife. And after 24 years, I can assure you she's going to hold me to it, because she said that if I tried to break that, she'd campaign against me. So I tell everyone I've got wife-imposed term limits.
That reminds me of a funny question the other day. I was speaking to Agriculture Commissioner Payne. I said, I hear you're a dark horse candidate for governor. And he said, hey, if I told you that before I told my wife, we'd both be in trouble. So tell me about the balanced budget amendment and how we're going to reduce the size of the federal government.
Well, here's something that people fail to realize, and it amazes me, because I was talking with my opponent just a few weeks back, and he was telling me about his proposal for a continuing resolution with a 1% cut. I said, 1%? The national budget is up 40% pre-COVID. And the interest on our debt by next year will be the single largest budgetary item. And we can't have 1% cuts. We can't even have 5% cuts. We've got to have massive cuts. We need to get back to pre-COVID levels of spending. And that means we're going to have to cut this bureaucracy. We need to get rid of the federal Department of Education. We can eliminate the bureaucracy, send the funds that are necessary back to the states, and get rid of DC trying to indoctrinate our children. We need to get rid of the ATF. There are some components in the law that are necessary, but they can be managed through the U.S. Marshal Services. We've got to get rid of the FTC. We've got to get back and get rid of the CFPB and all these three-letter agencies that are unelected bureaucrats that make up the over 2.8 million federal civilian employees in this country. That's way too many. And we're going to have to cut that number down and let them go get a real job like you and I have working in the American homeland.
Wow, man, this is a message. So tell me, this right here is something that's never talked about or just given in passing. And it's a major problem that people don't realize is the extradition of human trafficking and how we're exploiting our children.
It really is heart-wrenching, Chris. And in fact, I like many people out there, watched a movie earlier this year that touched on exactly how challenging that it is. And we look at I-20 here throughout the Birmingham corridor and realize that it's one of the biggest trafficking corridors in the country. And for us to realize that we have this issue, it's going to start with us securing our border, because a lot of this human trafficking starts there, and it's through these drug cartels. But then we've got to put protections in place. And these people who want to harm children, those are the most evil kind of people out there. And we need to make sure that we're holding them accountable. I mean, we've got to protect all life from conception to natural end. But we say that, and then we have this issue with human trafficking with kids. We've got to address these issues, Chris. And that's why we've got to have leaders who are more concerned about doing what's right and not curtailing to the special interest.
Gerrick, you have a strong message that you have a strong delivery to. How are the voters receiving, or are they receptive to it? I mean, what kind of responses are you getting from the crowds when you're talking about this?
Most everyone we're talking with feels the same way. They're tired of the status quo. They're tired of business as usual. They really want us to see a change, and they know our country needs it. And it resonates. This message is resonating with the voters. I was happy. We're seeing really good numbers coming in on internal polling, and we know that we have a clear pathway to victory, but it's going to take everyone's effort. We need people to connect with us online. WilkinsForAL.com. I'd love for you to sign up to be on our mailing list, volunteer, donate. I'm self-funding a lot of this campaign, but I'm up against such a mammoth war chest. I need all the help I can get from everyone. Connect with us on social media. I mean, we're out there trying to run a grassroots campaign, and we need everyone's help to do it.
Yeah, if you can give me your I'll talk to Lewis and get on your press release. I'll be glad to, put that up for you and get it out to as many people as I can. And I'm sure he's like I said, fundraising. He's got a mammoth war chest. Are you doing okay fundraising? Are you able to raise any money, or is the next step?
Yeah, we're raising some, but obviously it takes so much. As you know, everything we do is expensive, from polling to signs to digital. We're planning to do some TV buy in February, but we need money to do that. Like I said, I've been blessed. God's blessed my wife and I, and we've invested personally quite substantially. We've had a lot of support from local people, but we need more because anytime we're not getting money from special interests like my opponent. I mean, we're not taking money from those guys. We're taking money from everyday Americans, from Alabamians who care about our country, and we're running it as a grassroots campaign.
Well, Gerrick, I'm not going to keep much of your time because I know so I'm going to keep this short, but you had a busy day. You've answered most of my questions. I just want to say I can feel the sincerity in your voice, the way you speak, unlike I do with a lot of candidates. And I'm not only that negative towards all of them, but I can say that you truly care about your fellow man, and that populist appeal that you have really resonates with me. So good luck in your campaign. I'll be following it close. Send me your press releases. I'll write up an article and for you. Give me a day or so because I'm behind on everything, and I'll send it to you. And I wish you the best of luck.
All right, sounds good, Chris. Merry Christmas and have a great New Year. Okay.
You too. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.